That I am.
All right, Jaden, the news.
Well, today is Tuesday, July 8th, and at the top of the story here, the Supreme Court on Tuesday backed President Donald Trump's effort to carry out mass firings and reorganizations at federal agencies, putting on hold a lower court order that had temporarily blocked the president from taking those steps without the approval of Congress. The decision is the latest in a series of significant wins for Trump at the Supreme Court, including an opinion making it more difficult to challenge executive orders and rulings backing the administration's deportation policies. In an unsigned order, the High Court said that lower courts had stopped the plans based on the administration's general effort rather than specific agency reduction in force plans that would drastically cut the size of the government workforce. No vote count was released, but Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, a member of the court's liberal wing, dissented. The case stems from an executive order Trump signed in mid February that kicked off the process of significantly reducing the size of the federal government agencies, an issue the president campaigned on last year. Departments subsequently announced plans to lay off tens of thousands of employees. But federal departments are created by law, and lower courts have repeatedly held that the White House can't unilaterally wipe them out or leave them so short staffed that they cannot carry out their legal responsibilities. Because the government is likely to succeed on its argument that the executive order and memorandum are lawful, we grant the application, the court wrote in a brief order. We expressed no view on the legality of any agency, RIF, or reorganization plan produced or approved pursuant to the executive order and memorandum, the court wrote. So let's get into this. The court really doesn't have an argument for this, it seems. They don't have the vote counts. They're very brief in their assessment of this case. Just let him do whatever the hell he wants, regardless. And it seems as though they've
Yeah.
capitulated. They don't really have an ideological standing on, or a legal constitutional standing on this. It's just whatever. Here you go. Here's a win.
Right. I don't. Yeah, I'm a bit confused. This was Trump's executive order, and he didn't have like anything, any reason.
Yeah. Of course, don't have any
I
reason either.
I mean that means that the president could technically just fire everyone in the federal government
Yeah,
Yep.
for any reason.
pretty much.
Well, I mean, they already did, right? Like, they didn't do proper performance reviews. Elon and them, they just were like, okay, fire all those people.
Well, that's not great. Um, it was 8-1.
Really?
That's what it was.
Well, that's disappointing.
What was the? There had to be like a legal reason for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what their conclusion was, but the outcome here really is going to be if he can fire anyone, you can imagine the terror that he can rain. I think the legal reasoning, if I had to guess, probably would have been that, well, he's an executive and they're a federal officer, so they serve at will the president because that's the standard that they've had. But if an entire, like, if you can crumble an entire agency by just firing people, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
insane. I think this had to do. I just want to clear. Did this have to do with a layoff plan, or was this was Trump's executive layoff plan?
His executive layoff plan.
Yeah. So this is not good. I basically, like, from the right wing perspective, gives them an insane amount of leverage to fire everyone or
Yeah.
anyone that they want and reign control. And it's not just getting rid of like all of the agencies they view as nothing or whatever, but it's also getting rid of people that denounce Trump, people that are openly against him. And you can fill up.
Yeah.
And this, by the way, is an interesting thing because this is the plight of despots. You can take an entire group of people that are qualified, throw them out there so that you can replace them with people that are loyal. And you get a lot
Yes,
more of
ma'am.
your stuff done, but it ends up being far more detrimental to literally everything. So,
Yeah, and
This
this
is
order covers more than a dozen different agencies from energy, the VA, Treasury, Health and Human Services. The CDC is set to lose some 10,000 positions. I don't know what exactly they expect from this other than blind loyalty and a complete catastrophe in the waiting.
Yeah.
This is all part of Project 2025. They have
Hmm.
this outlined in Project 2025. It is just a consolidation of power within the executive branch, and they're doing that through loyalists. He's in control of the bureaucracy, quote unquote, through the executive branch. He has the power now through the Supreme Court as well to fire and hire whoever he wants, and they're going to use this. They're going to use the excuse that there's too much bureaucracy and too much red tape within the government, not understanding that the people that they're firing are the ones that are keeping our water safe, are the ones that are keeping our food safe. And they're going to say this is eliminating money. The reality of it is we have 2.5 million people who work for the federal government through the bureaucratic systems, right? The people who checks and balances on everything from our city water to the air quality. There's about 2.5 million people. In the 1970s, there was 2 million people. So in the last 40 years, we've only hired 500,000 more people, and our population has over doubled. So if anything, we don't have enough people paying attention to what's going on, and the corporations are allowed to get away with literal murder with people not paying attention. So that's what's going on. That's how I see it. This is Project 2025.
Yep.
Yeah. Page, anything?
No, I think it's awful, obviously, and I think they've already done it. As soon as Doge came in and was activated, so I'm not surprised. I'm surprised it was a 9-1. Wait, what was the decision?
It was 8 to 1.
8-1. That I find a little surprising, but yeah.
Yeah.
I have to wonder what the
Yep.
reasoning for that was.
It's
But,
basically just handing it over to right wing authoritarianism because it's a double standard, right? Like it is a double standard. Like Trump will fire and the Republicans will fire literally everyone, and the Democrats won't do that. So there's a major imbalance there.
I have to wonder how all of these significant shifts in the executive's capabilities might play into the favor of the next Democratic president, and whether or not they
I've
can
wondered
fire all
that
the loyalists that
too.
were hired.
I've wondered that too. Like, because I'm just gonna. If I was
Like, they
president,
can't expect to just be Republican all the rest of American history.
yeah, yeah.
So
So,
I think this sort of
we'll
plays
see.
into our next story here.
All
Let's
right, go
see.
ahead.
More than 160 people are still believed to be missing in Texas days after flash floods killed over 100 people during the July 4th weekend, the state's governor said Tuesday. The huge jump in the number, unaccounted for, roughly 3 times higher than previously said, came after authorities set up a hotline for families to call. Those reported missing are in Kerr County, where most of the victims have been recovered so far, Governor Greg Abbott said. Many were likely visiting or staying in the state's hill country during the holiday, but did not register at a camp or hotel, he said during a news conference. The county's lowlands along the Guadalupe River, are filled with youth camps and campgrounds, including Camp Mystic, the century old all girls Christian summer camp, where at least 27 campers and counselors died. Officials said Tuesday that 5 campers and 1 counselor have still not been found. Search and rescue teams are using heavy equipment to untangle and peel away layers of trees, unearth large rocks in riverbanks, and move massive piles of debris that stretch for miles in the search for the missing people. Crews in airboats, helicopters, and on horseback, along with hundreds of volunteers, are part of the largest search operations in Texas history. The flash flood is the deadliest from inland flooding in the U.S. since Colorado's Big Thompson Canyon flood on July 31st, 1976, which killed 144 people, said Bob Henson, a meteorologist with Yale Climate Connections. That flood surged through a narrow canyon packed with people on a holiday weekend, Colorado's centennial celebration. Public officials in charge of locating the victims are facing intensifying questions about who is in charge of monitoring the weather and warning the floodwaters were barreling through camps and homes. Now, let's dig into this. Do we blame at any degree the significant drawbacks when it relates to what was it, NOAA and the
Probably.
oceanic, right, atmospheric oceanic department?
Probably. Yeah.
I say
But I
yes.
don't know for certain. I mean, like, I think the thing here is the double standard, right?
Hmm.
Like, I put out a video where I talked about this, where, like, is really long and in depth. The Republicans desperately need validation, desperately need validation, and they don't have actual facts. So they focus on, look at what this person did. Look at what they did this. They caused this. This is them. And now it's Trump. Are any of them
Hmm.
going, oh my God, I can't believe the president? No, right? So there's this very clear double standard. There's this very clear situation where Republicans weaponize the weather against whatever president is in office so they can get
Or
talking points. Then when
governor.
you turn it around on them, huh?
Or governor who's in office.
Or governor, and they attack, and then when it's turned around on them, they ignore it. And this is like the media power imbalance in this country that's fucking crazy. Like, it's actually crazy because there's no like anger towards Trump, right? There's no anger towards Republicans when this happens. They're not saying, oh my God, Greg Abbott caused this. They're not saying that, right? And it's not being said across the internet. It's not being pushed out. You're not seeing it everywhere. Who's at fault? Everybody's sort of reasonable on it because one side's like, yeah, cool. This is like a bad marriage in America, you know?
I
Really
agree.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
like one side's one, like they can't come to terms because of just fucking gas. Whatever. Anyway, um, yeah, it's I don't know the degree that Trump was involved in this, but I will say that in terms of the media perspective of it, the Republicans have the upper hand. They just amplify that anger at Democrats, amplify it, and they
Mm.
don't know why. They don't need any depth to it. They don't know why. They're just angry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and there's more evidence, I would argue, to suggest that the Republican cuts to these various departments and protections have played a direct role in this than, I don't know, what they claimed about California and the underbrush not raking enough or not running the water to protect a fish. None of that's true. But you can draw a direct correlation between what they've done to FEMA, what they've done to disaster relief, what they've done to climate monitoring systems, and what's happened now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every
Pager
scientist
Josh.
and expert in this, they all agree that not only is this going to be detrimental to the public now because of the lack of early warning systems like tornadoes, floods, like we've already seen, it's going to be generational because
Yeah.
the science that they're losing the access to continue to learn about all this, like the weather balloons going up, all of this information is going to be lost for the next 20 years. It's going to take us to catch back up if a scientific president comes back into power and allows this research to continue. We will have lost a generation's worth of knowledge.
Hmm. Well, that's part of the whole agenda, the anti intellectualism of it all.
Yeah, they don't believe in climate change. They know that, and those who do believe in it, they're just looking the other way. They don't want this information out there. They think that if the information that the Weather Service provides, if it goes away, then people will stop talking about climate change. They'll stop like pushing for certain legislation. So yeah, there's a benefit for them. That's why they're
Yep.
doing it.
Yep. And speaking of cuts, we have our next story here. This one
Mm-hmm.
is batshit insane to me. The Transportation Safety Administration will allow passengers at airports across the country to keep their footwear on as they go through security checkpoints, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem told reporters Tuesday. The new policy is nationwide and takes effect immediately, said Noem, whose department oversees the TSA. While the rule may not apply to passengers who need additional layers of screening, Nome said, it will be the norm for most people going forward. With this no shoes policy, we anticipate that Americans and travelers and those coming into our country will be very excited they will no longer have to remove their shoes, she said. Nome attributed the change to a review of the agency's security and screening protocols that determined which were effective. Passengers will still pass through what Nome described as a multi layered screening and identity verification process before they can board planes. A senior government official told NBC News earlier that the policy would apply to passengers only at selected airports, though it could expand nationwide in the near future. Nicholas Callio, CEO of Airlines for America, a trade association, applauded the move, saying it will go a long way in facilitating smooth, seamless, and secure travel for passengers and is welcome news to the millions of people who fly every day. Making security decisions that are informed by risk assessments and based on leveraging advanced technologies is a common sense approach to a policy change. Now, I'm kind of 50-50 on this one, okay? 'Cause you never know what
Oh,
somebody
hot
could be
take.
carrying in their shoes. Yeah, I'm a little bit 50-50, okay? I mean, I wear boots, and those get a little bit cumbersome to take off and put back on. And, sometimes I
Yeah.
wear I'm going to miss my flight. But for the added bit of security, I'm fine with doing that. I'm fine that everyone does that.
You know, we're the
I
only
kind
country
of
in the
don't want.
world that does
Yeah,
this. Yeah, we're
really.
the only country that makes people take their shoes off. Yeah.
Well, because you can make a gun out of anything. Somebody's shoe's probably a gun. I'm kind of fine with that.
Well,
But
it's
wait a
not.
minute,
We
hold on.
literally had a shoe bomber. Okay,
Hey,
Yeah, we
that
did.
happened.
We had
Yeah,
somebody
but
try
they
to light
put
us
you
a
through
move on
that
their
thing
phone.
where it does the woo 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 woo, and then it
yeah,
checks you, and then
yeah.
you
Put your
go.
hands up.
Yeah, just like my
But I feel
youth.
like
Put your
somebody's
hands
going to
up.
manipulate that and make a shoe that you can't detect with the X-ray thing.
I think we're a little further beyond that. We don't need to take our shoes off anymore. Probably our jackets either. I'll be honest.
Yeah, but the
I'd be
Like
pedicure.
they
worried.
could
I'd be
see, they
real.
could,
I'm
they
I'm
can
more
see.
more worried about a
They literally
bird.
could see
To be
my
honest with
private
you.
parts. I'm not. I'm not worried about the shoes.
Well, it's more for my benefit. Some of them have nice pedicures. We can't get rid of this, guys. This
The
is
rate of
terrible policy.
plantar warts drops dramatically somehow.
Did anybody once think about Quentin Tarantino?
Oh my god, it just drops off entirely, nearly entirely. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
The extinction of plantar warts.
Like I said, I'm 50-50 on this.
Anyway,
But
uh,
our last story
mhm.
here, this one's actually really disgusting. Uh, the United States government is planning to breed billions of flies and dump them out of airplanes over Mexico and southern Texas in a fight to fight a flesh-eating maggot. That sounds like the plot of a horror movie, but is part of the government's plan for protecting the U.S. from a bug that could devastate its beef industry, decimate wildlife, and even kill household pets. This weird science has worked well before. It's an exceptionally good technology, says Edwin Burgess, an assistant professor at the University of Florida who studies parasites in animals, particularly livestock. It's an all time great in terms of translating science to solve some kind of large problem. Goes on here. Oh, God, they have a disgusting large picture of the maggot itself. Um, it, right here.
Is it wearing a red hat?
No, it might as well be. The targeted pest is a flesh-eating larva of the new world. I had to scroll down such a
Do
large
not put
image to
that
get
up.
the
Yeah, don't
first
do
thing.
that. That's a
I'm
good.
not gonna do
No,
it.
no,
It's
no, no, no.
just
We're good.
there was
Well,
like
you
the
can
image was
Google it
so
if you're
big.
curious. I don't want to see it. I'm good.
Yeah, you
I
don't want to
just
see it.
believe
I
them.
had
You
to.
know what I mean?
I'll give you the name of it in a moment here, but I
Yeah.
had to scroll through such a large image to get to the rest of the article here. The targeted pest is the flesh-eating larva of the New World screwworm fly, appropriately named. The U.S. Department of Agriculture plans to ramp up the breeding and distribution of adult male flies, sterilizing them with radiation before releasing them. They mate with females in the wild, and the eggs laid by the females aren't fertilized and don't hatch. There are fewer larvae, and over time, the fly population dies out. It is more effective and environmentally friendly than spraying the pest into oblivion, and it is how the U.S. and other nations north of Panama eradicated the same pest years ago. Sterile flies from the factory in Panama kept the flies contained for years there. but the pests appeared in southern Mexico late last year. The USDA expects a new screwworm fly factory to be up and running in southern Mexico by July 2026. It plans to open a fly distribution center in southern Texas by the end of the year so that it can import and distribute flies from Panama if necessary. Flies are disgusting. I didn't even want to read that article, but it's something happening. So,
Imagine,
pest control.
New jobs, man.
imagine you
New
live
jobs.
there.
God.
Just
Close your
imagine you
mouth.
live
Ah!
no, yeah. Just imagine you live there. Yeah.
Why
I
do
don't
flies
even.
exist?
I don't even know that I have that much to say about this. I don't. That's gross. I don't.
It's all of it is gross.
I mean,
I have to
but
look
we,
at the damn thing.
I know, but if we think about the, like the flies are gross, but you think about the opposite. What's worse, you know?
I don't
The
know.
guy had to neuter all those flies. That's wild.
Can't we
Yeah.
just put a shit ton of frogs in the air or something? Give them parachutes?
Mm,
I'd rather frogs than flies.
Yeah. So what happens
But
to the flies once they've?
they die. They die. They would have to like flies only have like a 7 to 2 week 7 day to 14 day lifespan anyway, depending on what kind of fly it is. I don't know what a screw worm fly is, but they're like if they're not reproducing, they're gonna die within one generation, which is probably 2 week period.
I
damn.
mean, it's better than pesticide, right? I mean, like,
Sure.
is that the silver lining?
Yeah, it's sort of a natural order of things. You introduce this species to eradicate the other, so that we don't spray a shit ton of stuff in the air. But it's kind of gross.
It's gross.
Really gross.
I'm gonna change this topic and help us all out here.
Oh, thank God.
Do you know that in my state they have like these lakes like that you can go up to and stuff, and they actually like drop fish out of a thing into the lakes. Like they like do a drive by fishing, not fishing, but drive by drop, and then just drop fish from hundreds of feet out in a plane. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I just want to change this up because I didn't like
Yeah,
that.
that's how they stock the lakes, man.
Yeah, they stock remote lakes like that, and it's cool because in my state they have golden trout, which are not native here. They're native, I think, to California, and they take those as like an adventure fishing thing, and they put them in high altitude mountains where they know that they won't make it out of because they're invasive. And so you can like hike up. It's a long ass hike, but you can hike up and go catch those fish. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought maybe you were going to mention the fly lady.
Oh my
Ah,
god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Should I do that? I caused someone to go viral.
disgusting.
Accidentally. I did cause someone to accidentally go viral. This is true. It happened on the stream. This lady came in. This is like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was probably 4 years ago. This is absolutely true, and it still grosses me out. This lady came in. She's talking. We're talking about vaccines. Brace yourself if you don't want to hear this. I mean, the whole story, the whole thing here just got derailed. So whatever, we're talking maggots, flies, and fish. Now we're gonna talk fly ladies. Anyway, so she came in. She was talking, whatever. It was like a kind of normal conversation. Like she was kind of getting it, but kind of wasn't. Someone went into her page and be like, "Dude, there's flies all over in her video." And I asked her about it on stream. I was like, "There's flies like in your video?" Like, yeah. And it was like, well, she's like, I'm trying to get rid of. I have like a fly problem, and someone told me that one of them went in her mouth, like crawled into her mouth, and I was like, ah. So I went and pulled the video, and I looked. I was like, and I don't think we could watch it on here at that time, but people went and watched the video, and
Oh,
people
thank
started
God.
tagging this dude. You know the guy that he's always like on TikTok, like a crazy video plays, and then he's like this.
Yeah.
He got a hold of it and roll with it. But she had flies all over that house. And it was just like, lady, it's not a fly problem. There's something wrong. You need to go clean. Do
When it
something.
crawled in her mouth, she didn't react. Most people react when there's like a bug crawling into your mouth. Most
She was
people
happy
react.
about that shit. She
Yeah,
wanted
she
that.
was like,
Why are we talking about this?
yep, totally fine with it.
Yeah, it was gross. It was really gross, and she went viral on multiple platforms. So you're welcome, internet. I did that to y'all. Everybody got to see it because of me.
Fly lady.
I was like,
bet she's
I was
not with
like,
us
that's
anymore.
I'm gonna be honest. The internet didn't need that. There's enough shit on the internet that's fucked up. That it didn't need any more, and I did that to the internet. Y'all are welcome. Is that the news, Jaden?
That's the news, as disgusting as it is.